Hey, Jabbers. So today we are talking with Kevin Dennis, and you've heard us talk about the importance of community in past episodes, but today we're getting a little more specific and talking about how to network strategically to build some lasting relationships.
With over 35 years in the game, Kevin is no stranger to the wedding business and other entrepreneurship endeavors, I guess. Kevin is the editor of Wedding IQ and the owner of Fantasy Sound Event Services, a full service event company based in Livermore, California. Kevin is the founder of Tri Valley Wedding Professionals and the incoming president of the NACE Foundation. He is also about to launch two podcasts, and actually, when this airs, they will be live. So we'll make sure to link those. The two podcasts are called Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married? And Mind Your Wedding Business, which great names, by the way, Kevin. So welcome to Just Another Biz podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to chat. So, tell us a little bit more how you first started your business, and also with that, did networking feel natural to you at the time, or did it take some time to evolve into networking with people in the industry?
I started my business when I was 19 years old, so it did not feel natural at all. And I started a long time ago. My neighbor was a DJ, and I would go along and I would help him, and I was kind of like his roadie. And I like almost for 2 years, I would go set up his stuff. I never got paid by him, never asked to be paid, and kind of went along. And then one day I was like, you know what, we should really think about getting two, and I'll start DJing. We can do two events at one time, big grand plans right there. Right. And he looked at me square in the eye and said, you're not good enough. You'll never be able to do this. And so from that moment forward, I stopped helping him for free. And I went out and started working for other DJ companies, and not immediately, but over like about 4 or 5 months, I became one of like the most requested school dance DJs, because I was at that age, and that's kind of what I was going for, because I was a nerd, and I didn't do well with the girls, and the girls always liked the DJs, so that was kind of my path to meet ladies. So, but then after doing it for a couple years, graduated high school, I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy all my own equipment, I'm going to start my own business. And then so I started my business when I was 19 years old. And so so like I was going to college, still doing it. And then in 95, I decided to jump. Most of people your listeners probably, most of the couples that I do their weddings weren't even born yet at this time. Some of them. So it's always, so I date myself and say how old I am. But I jumped in full time, and then that's when I started learning like audiovisual and other parts of the business. And then that's actually when I started kind of networking. And it's not networking is, some people are just like naturals and take to it, and they can go out and work a room and are really comfortable. And then there's people that just, their hair is up on the back of their neck, and they're sweating, and their heart is, about to jump out of their chest, and, and don't do very well at it. And there's people in between. So it's kind of, but I think I have over the years built my business all throughout, more from relationships through networking than I have from, having ads or Google ads or any of that other stuff.
What a cool like beginning of like, you're not good at this, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like, screw you, I'm gonna go do this anyway. And I love that. I think so many people would have just been defeated, especially at 19, to just like hear that and be like, you know what, maybe I should do something else. But I love that you pushed your way through.
Well, and it's just like, because I'm the one that would fix the equipment when it would break, and I'm the one that would, and I would even drive. It was his car, but I would drive the car and set up, and he was more like the rock star, so to speak. And then I got to really learn how to do it all, and I was like, you know what, I can really do this. And then when he told me that, I was like, you know what, screw you, I'm gonna do, like you said,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this on my own. And the best part is he was with then about me stopping to help him, within about maybe like a year or so, he was done. And the company that I was working for was starting to take over a lot of his business, because it was relationships. Even at that age, I was building relationships with school, the president of the, leadership class and all that, those kind of things. So.
Well, and I feel like maybe this is me stereotyping, but as a DJ, you have to be personable, right? You're on the mic. you have to have a personality, and I would expect you to be good in a room, like to be a
No.
networking person. So this is surprising that you're saying, no, it took you what? You had to learn to be a good
Well, I still
networker?
have to learn. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've had my business now 35 years. I still am nervous walking into like I into a room and I'm comfortable. I will say, so I was WIP international president. I served two different terms. So for 4 years, I was WIP international president, and I got to go to a lot of local or their local events. So I'd get on an airplane and go to New York or Atlanta or down in Arizona, Vegas, everywhere. I was, it was fun. But doing that, I could walk into that room and I was very comfortable because I wasn't there to get business. I was just there to support the association. I wasn't trying to woo anyone. I wasn't trying, it was just, I was Switzerland to the nth degree and very comfortable. And doing that helped me now go and network, because then I'll walk in, I'm a little bit more relaxed than I used to be. My heart's not pounding out of my chest, even though I talk on the microphone. Like, I'm not afraid to talk to 500 people in a room. It doesn't bother me at all. But to network is really a strange thing.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. And maybe this answers my next question. But looking back, do you have an instance that stands out in your mind where something clicked about networking that you kind of became the go to guy for this topic, or more or less how to do it well?
I will say the click part where I learned how to do it well was when I was WIPA president and I got to watch other people do it, and kind of like, I'm like, oh, that guy's an idiot. Oh, that one's not gonna, like, she's going about this all wrong. Like in my head, like standing in a room and just relaxing and just kind of being able to watch other people. That's where I really, really learned about it, and kind of going through it, because you could see so many people make so many mistakes when they're out there. So
And actually, that's not a question I don't think we're going to ask, but I'm curious now that you mention it. What are, off the top of your head, a few mistakes that maybe common mistakes that people make when they're trying to network?
so I would notice when I would go to these events is like people would walk in and they're like disheveled because they had a hard time parking or they couldn't find where they're going. And so they're walking in and they're all like, they didn't, they showed up a few minutes late or whatever it is. So then that energy comes through when they're walking around the room. People forget business cards. I know I'm old, so I still like that. Like, we're paperless in our company. We've been paperless since 2018. We like went paperless and we haven't looked back since, but we still have business cards. And I still think, people, it's when you're networking, people still want a business card. Some people will give you the little phone ones, and there's all kind of, people still, there's something about that business card for people. So I still think it's important to have those kind of things, but not having that. The other thing is when you go and you're networking and you're dominating the conversation. It's like
Mhm.
me, and you're really there to learn about them.
Mhm.
And there's like this little, it's like a little dance that you do with people when you're having conversation. You drop in little things, and you should drop in little things that make them curious about what you do and want to learn more, and then have them asking you questions, but be the person that's asking questions. I think that's well too. And then the other thing I think that's really, I would see, is new people would walk in the room and they would close themselves off to the new people,
Mm.
and so therefore the new people are not going to come back.
Mhm.
So if you are in the leadership position of whatever, whether it's a chamber of commerce or a wedding association or whatever it is, you need to be the person that's a connector. So when someone walks in brand new, it's like, hey, you need to meet Kari. She's great. She does this and that, and I'm gonna, and then boom, and let's take you over here and meet this person. And if you're being that connector, and that person that you're doing that for is going to forever be indebted to you and love you. But then also there's something to be said is, it gives you more of like a leadership role in the group, because you're the one that's connecting everyone, and
Mm.
everyone looks for you that way. So that, I mean, we could probably go on some pick an outfit. That's another one. I think people, be comfortable, so that's some people don't pick an outfit, like you got, if you're not comfortable in your work attire, like whatever it is, like don't wear a suit if you're not comfortable in a suit, be yourself and go that way. So
Yeah, I think it's interesting talking about just like having a connector, right? Because I've gone to a lot of events where I don't know anyone. And I think probably most people walk in thinking everyone knows everyone here. They're all like best friends, which is
and they
typically
don't.
not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you stumble upon people that are like, I don't know anyone either.
Yeah.
But I do love when the leader of or maybe whoever's hosting it comes up to you and is like, hi, I'm so and so. Because I do, it like puts you at ease just to be like, okay, I've met someone, and then they can help introduce you to other people.
Like my local chamber of commerce has ambassador. They're a group of people, and that's their job, is just to come in, welcome people, introduce people. Is this your first time? Here's, let's get you a drink, let's do that, like, and then just kind of make you feel comfortable. And I think more and more groups need to do that, because you'll get, like, if that happens to you, Kari, you would come back, right?
Yeah.
You would be comfortable. You would want to come back, and and then you forever get a member, and then and the rest is history. So
Yeah. Do you, I'm curious about the business cards, since you said that you still feel like we should use them. What do you do with them when you get home? Do you like input them
so
into your
I think
computer? Do
I
you have a
do.
stack of them?
No, I'll hold them there, and sometimes I'll be like, hey, I need to give this to someone else, because I think I'll take the information, I put it into my computer, and then I'll sometimes make a little note, like, met them at this event, and I'll follow up with them. I think that's where a lot of people don't do well at networking, is they don't follow. It's great meeting you at such and such event. Hope we cross paths again. And then I let them know I run the Tri-Valley Wedding Professionals. If you'd like, I'd be happy to add you to our database. You can learn more. We do 4 events a year, and go from there. But then I'd be honest with you, I pass it on, or I throw it in the Rolodex. So I am bad about, but there's something to be said that you go and you walk away with the business card, because I like, people do that tapping where it ends up in my phone, and I'm like, and then you go in, I have so many people in my address book that I don't remember who that person is, or where, or like how I remember them. And or you'll look through your address book, you're like, who the hell is this, because you can't remember who the person is. So I don't know, I think it's more like, for me, it's on my time and on my way of taking that business card, and doing whatever I need to do with the information. So
Wait,
I
I
like what
kind
you,
of,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I kind of wish that Tap app, maybe it does, but does it have a way to take a picture of the person? Because then I'd be
I
like,
know.
oh, I remember, like, I'm so visual to your point, Kevin. Like, if
Yeah.
the person goes in my phone as Annie and I have 3 other Annies in there, I have no idea who they are. And I forget the
Well,
name the second I leave the room.
and to your point, the business card is visual, so you like associate that person with that business card. But who knows, I don't use that Tap app, but I'm sure I don't know, there's people out there. And you've seen the little business card that you tap the phone and it goes in. And
Yep.
yeah, there's a guy at my chamber of commerce that does that, and he walks around tapping people's phones. And then, but this also, he doesn't take the time to develop a relationship or get to know people. So all he is I call it spray and pray. My wife gets mad at
Yes.
me for saying that nowadays, but they walk around and just, spray their business card around the room and pray that someone's going to call them. And that never works, so you can be a spray and prayer, and just, it doesn't work at all. So
I guess I never really thought about, like, I would always get business cards and then be like, oh, put them in a pile, and then they're just kind of sitting there. But I love that you took the initiative and you're kind of the connector after the event, even if it's not your event, because you're like, hey, if you want to get involved in these things that I'm doing. And I think that's a great way to, like, a low entry, like, way to like get connected and do like one more step. And then it's kind of like balls in their court to come back with the
and there's a lot
relationship.
to well and a lot to be said too. If I connect them with someone else that gives them a piece of business, now they're going to remember me, and they might start referring me, and then it just, it snowballs at that point.
Yeah. So I'm curious because as Gabby and I are both wedding planners, and so a lot of people always want to connect with us. And so I feel like we often get cold emails from vendors. And so kind of walk us through maybe what you would suggest is the best way to send a cold email. And like, as someone who's receiving it, like, sometimes we respond, sometimes we don't. It really depends on how personalized they are. If they're like hey, feathered arrow, like if they don't even know my name. And you know, a lot of times we'll respond and like we add them to like running list of backup vendors, but sometimes it feels like there's not the reciprocal, you know, relationship. And so I'm curious, like, what's the best way to send that, but then also to respond to those?
Unfortunately, I don't think there is a best way to send those because there's no relationship being built right there. And you're, you know, like I would, when I was building my business, you know, I would send to almost 800 schools. You know, I would send my information when I was starting, and I would just, again, spray and pray and, you know, throw it out there. But then it wasn't until I started getting in the school and developing a relationship, and this leadership person knows this person, and then it started to grow. So I you know, it's, you got to start somewhere. So if you're brand new in the business, I think you can, you know, start with a cold, you know, spray and pray. You got to start somewhere. But then I also think if you're, you know, like you have a gelato cart, or you roll cigars for at a wedding, or if you have the beer burro, the little donkeys that are serving beer. Have you seen this? A donkey, because they're getting $2,000 to walk a donkey around a wedding with ice chests on its side, just handing out beer. I'm like, this, that's the quickest, easy $2,000 you will ever make. And you just take care of a nice little animal and, you know, bring it along and dress it up and have fun. But anyway, so if you have a unique business, you know, like there was a girl in WIPA that had like child care service at weddings where she would take care of the kids. Someone like that, I think, is going to, a cold email to someone like the two of you is going to go a lot longer than a DJ, a videographer, photographer, a caterer. It's a dime a dozen. You're one of 100 or 1,000. You know, it's not the same where if you own the VW bus that's now a photo booth. That's very unique, and you're like, oh, I might have a client that might want that. I might have a client that might want a beer burro walking around, you know, passing out beer during cocktail hour, like, you know what I'm saying? Like those kind of fun little unique things. I think it's easier for someone that has a business like that to do cold emails. But the rest of us that are doing the same as everyone else, you got to get out there, work the pavement, and develop a relationship, because we like to do business with people that we know and trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause,
And
like in good conscience, it's like I can't recommend a hair and makeup artist that I've never met to clients because I'm like, what if it's like horrible experience, you know, like not knowing them or their work and stuff like that.
But I do think another way you could do it though is like, hey, Kari, here's my information. Follow me on Instagram and you could see my work, so that may be another way where and I'm popping up. And if they do a really good job with their social media, you're like, oh, I can pay attention to this hair and makeup person that, they're doing a really good, job. And then maybe that's like a foot in the door and starts that conversation as well.
Yeah.
And I think there's the other thing, like Kari mentioned, personalizing the email. Like it takes so little, but please find
Oh,
our
I know.
name. But like, and of course, if you're a vendor that doesn't list their email anywhere on their website or doesn't list their name, I mean, that's a problem. But ours is everywhere and we put it in our Instagram. So please address us by our name. That's, step number one. And know that you're talking to the right audience. Like we're adventurous wedding planners. So I don't want I don't know, chandelier company, bedazzled chandelier company reaching out to me about their services. I'm never going to work with you. So,
Yeah.
I just think there is the spray and pray method, but some of it is so broad that I'm like, you're not even trying here. There's zero
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah, I know. And you're like, yeah. And then you just delete and move on, and it is what it is. But that's all you can do.
Yeah. Well, okay. And talk to us, like Kari said, on the receiving end. So we're the people receiving, and there is the option A, delete if it's too generic. But then there's the other option where we could probably reply and say, thank you for sending your packages. Zoom call. Do we meet in
No,
person? No, like
I would refer. So like if you evolved like a networking group, or like you're part of the Chamber of Commerce or whatever it is, invite them. Like, hey, great
yeah.
to meet you. I'm going to be at the next upcoming this event. I'd love to see you there. And then because it gets to a point where you do coffee with so many people, and you can only do so much, or you can only do so many like virtual meetings, and there's not enough time in the day. But I will say, But if you take it to the next level, you met them at a chamber of commerce or whatever type of event you were at, and you developed a little relationship, that's when the coffee comes in. That's the next, that's when that point comes in. It's not initial, like cold call. Like so I mentioned my dad's in hospice. We're in the middle of selling his house. And my dad and my grandmother own the house. So we're having to go through like this whole probate thing. And this guy keeps sending me mail that has 2 cents in it. He goes, I just want to give you my 2 cents. And I'm like, what the? And I just take the money out and I throw it on the little change thing and I just throw it away. Like I'm not going to throw money away. But it's just like, I'm like that. I don't even pay attention. It's just such a weird, generic, obnoxious way of marketing. And I think people don't like to do business with that type of used car salesman-ish attitude. And if you have that attitude when you're at these events, you're not going to be, you're not going to be a whole lot of fun. And, and even like you got to be careful because a lot of these events serve alcohol. So don't become the person that is known as the person that gets a little too, drunk at these events and has one too many. There was in my local chamber. So there's 3 chamber of commerce in the 3 cities kind of right next to me, all have their own chamber of commerce. And there's the city next to me. There's a gentleman over there that is known as the shrimper, literally. So, right. So no one knows him as his business name, but they know him as the shrimper because he eats all the shrimp on the buffet table. If there is ever shrimp. And you're, yeah. And it's it's the point where people are like, oh, we're having this event. We better put shrimp on the, shrimp, whatever it is, because this gentleman might be there, kind of thing. So it just that you want to be known as your business or your name, and something like I struggle with because I have 3 first names. I'm Kevin Michael Dennis. And so people all the time, I will get emails, even though my email is kevin@fantasysound.com. You were saying names. I'll get people that call me Dennis all the time. And I'm like you said, they don't take the time to get to know me. They just, hear Dennis and it's a common first name and I'm going to call him Dennis.
So. Yeah. Oh my God.
It's interesting hearing you talk about like the 2 cents guy because we are moving in a couple of weeks to a new place and I was reaching out to movers and there were a few that were like constantly calling me and from different numbers. And then they would text me and email me. And I was like, I don't even want to follow up with them anymore because it was like so aggressive. But I was like, I don't like that approach. I don't want to work with you when you're overly aggressive. So it's like finding a balance of like connecting and trying to be present but not overly aggressive to make the sale.
It's funny. My sister just recently moved from California to Texas and had the worst experience with movers. So I was just like, so in my head, I'm like, well, if I was ever going to start a business that you could, kill it. And even like we went through a remodel at our house 5 years ago. We remodeled the kitchen, the bathrooms. It was almost like a 4.5 month project to do all this work. But it was like finding a contractor that is halfway would like show up. I'm like, I'm going to start, even though I'm not good at any of that stuff, I'm going to start a business and run it from the business side and just run it like a business or even like a land, we have a landscaper and it's like, it's through text and it's cryptic message, like no, if someone goes in and it finds an industry like that and runs it like a business, they'd kill. It would be, and are respectful and do it the right way. You would make a mint.
Yep, for sure.
Oh man.
Good luck with your move. It's the worst.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah.
Wait, Kari, I didn't even know you were moving. We'll have to talk about this later.
Yeah.
I can't believe you just like launched this
really
information.
Drop the bomb.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to share this thing that happened, Kevin, because so to your point of some professionals or some small businesses will get inundated with requests to meet in person or for coffee or Zoom or whatever. And it gets to be so much and you kind of want to filter them through, maybe see them at somewhere first and then do more one-on-one stuff. So to your point, a few weeks ago, I'm located here in Nashville and we decided we're wedding planners. I'm part of the Nashville Wedding Planners group where there's 35 of us and we all get the same emails from the same people. And I said, guys, how about we host a speed dating event where the vendors pay, it was like $25. They pay for our time, essentially, because we wanted to say, if you're serious enough to try to get to know us and for us to truly pay attention to who you are, what you're saying, like, let's limit it. Let's make it very exclusive to, we had only 18 tickets that we could sell due to space and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, it sold out. Each planner sat at a table and we gave each vendor 5 minutes, and then a bell would ring
Ooh,
and
that's
they
a
would,
long time.
it is, well, yes. Originally I was thinking, let's just do 2 minutes, but I kid you not, 5 minutes flew by. We barely had time to scrape the surface.
Oh,
And
wow.
my goal, however, for this event was to dive deeper in conversations. But what ended up happening for the most part was sales pitches. And I guess I'm just curious, what advice would you have given a vendor that was attending this event to try to connect? In this case, it's a wedding vendor and wedding planners,
So
but how would that best be beneficial for them?
I think I would have, like, if it was me, I would have started with like, like asking them, what do you look for in a wedding vendor? What makes a wedding vendor successful when they work with you, and get to know that. And if I feel like I'm a match for that, then I would start saying, well, I can do that and I can do that, and then finding a way to go about it that way, instead of like, this is what I do. And I just bought the latest, greatest this, and, that kind of stuff. It's like, I had the photo booth, the 360. I could, do the cold spark. I could do, whatever it may be. I could do,
Yeah.
and go at it is like what, because I'll be honest with you, there's planners in my area I can't stand to work for. And they drive me nuts. And every time, because they just go about a wedding the way I feel they make it, they invent drama so they feel like they have worth. That drives me nuts, because I feel like as a wedding planner, you're there to be invisible and to make sure everything goes well. And if no one knows that you're there and everything goes well, it's perfect. And I have this one wedding planner that literally, she walks around like she's the star of the show, and we all have to bow down to her, and I can't stand it. So I do everything out of my power to not pitch her or not do anything. We get connected to her through clients, kind of thing. But because I would never want to work with her, so I think if you go in it, there's, like, even for you guys, you have the people that you trust, you have a relationship with. And it's, it's bad to say, but sometimes I do the analogy. It's like, who do you want to go to war with? And if you don't want to go to war with these people and go through it, then they're not your people. And that's, that's what it is. And there's so many people that we work with that it's like, I have that relationship with. And when we have that really difficult wedding or really difficult mother, we just dealt with a really difficult mother of the bride, and everyone was, we were all connected. We all had a relationship, and we all like went to celebratory drinks after, and we're like, we did it, like, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
There's a
but it's
bond that forms. Yeah.
100%, but it's having that relationship. So I think having that point where you go in, it's like learning about that person instead of starting with the sales pitch, and seeing if we can connect, and see, like going to you. And if you can't, I rent chandeliers. I'm not a fit for you, for you in that way. And that would be good to learn right away, instead of me just going, I have this greatest chandelier and I just bought this one and we have these on order. Like, it wouldn't work.
I feel
Yeah.
like it goes back to your original point of like, ask the questions,
Yes.
instead of just like selling yourself, like be the one who's asking questions of them, because then it can lead to more natural conversation.
It really, and then it's once you hit that natural conversation, it's really like, there's people that ask me about my kids, and they know that I'm a huge Sacramento Kings fan, and baseball, I'm a Texas Ranger, like they know all about my sports and my family and all that kind of stuff. And when you see people, and we're not talking about the wedding, or we're not talking about that, we're talking more personal. That's where the real, I think, bond and relationships, grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anybody listening that's about to attend a networking event, please ask a few questions first. And honestly, I feel like, there's the book, was it The Rules of War? There should be, and it probably exists, The Rules of Networking, where it's like you said at the beginning, Kevin, it's a dance. You have to know that after you've said a few things, ask a question. And it's like a first date. I mean, it's terrible if you're just talking about yourself. the
it's
whole
funny.
time.
I use a lot when I speak on this topic, like to different groups. I use the dating analogy. Like it's totally like dating. Like wear a good outfit. Come in prepared. You're not walking in 15 minutes late to the date. Like you got to really, and you can tell the people that take it serious.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay. And now what if someone is attending? I mean, we can use the example of the speed dating event that we use, or just any networking event in general. Someone is coming in and they're like introverts, but they understand the power of networking. What are some tips that maybe boost their confidence, or perhaps it's even a list of questions that they have in mind that they could start with that they know it's a no brainer?
I sometimes I think it's good if it's possible, if it's out there, like who's attending the event, and maybe you can say, all right, that there's a wedding planner there, there's a rental company there that I want to get to know, and a little bit about them, and you come prepared with some, like you said, come prepared with some questions. I think that helps relax. I have a friend that has a glass of wine before we go network, and it just relaxes her. You know what I'm saying? So like everyone comes about it a little different. But whatever you need to relax and still maintain professional. But I think if you come prepared, you have your cards, you're ready to go. And and the other thing I think you got to be prepared for is rejection. Because
Ooh.
you're gonna get the people that are very rude. Oh, I don't need I don't need another wedding planner. I have 3 on my list already. Or oh, you're a caterer. Oh, I have 5 of those. Like be prepared for it's like, oh great, congratulations. I just wanted to get to know you,
Yeah.
and more, because what's going to happen is like there was a winery out here that I really wanted to get on the preferred vendor list, and it literally took me 3 years. So I think people, by the time I worked the relationship, did a wedding here, did a wedding there, and then before you know it, then they started to see me, and it was just like you said, it was this day went back and forth, and before you know it, I got added on. So the
Mm.
other thing, so I think people got to understand is when you go to a networking event, you're not going to see instant results unless you are that cigar roller or someone that's has a unique business. You are not going to see instant results. It's going to take time, and you need to go into this as it's an investment and know that it's going to take you 2 to 3 years, and you need to show up at these events for 2 to 3 years before you see the results.
And I'm curious though, like I'm not introverted, but I feel like sometimes going to these events, I do become introverted because I feel scared. And so sometimes I just like bring a friend, even if they're not in the industry. I like bring a friend along just to have a buffer. And I mean, would you recommend that? Or it's like just go into these solo so that you can maybe build the confidence of networking without having like a fallback?
So when I speak on this, that's a slide that we do. I bring a friend, yes or no, and I ask the crowd, and there's a lot of yeses, and then I get a lot of nos. It's usually pretty split. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think everyone is different. So you obviously need a wingman or a wingwoman to go with you to these things. I'm going to be honest with you, Kari. You and I would be good because I need someone. As much as I do this, I feel better having someone with me. I hate walking into a room by myself, exclude the time that I was the WIPA president, because it's just not a comfort. And if you walk through and everyone's like closed off and not really, you walk around and then you're standing there by yourself, you feel like an idiot. Or at least I think I feel like an idiot,
Yeah.
and then my confidence is getting shredded in my head, and I'm not doing, I'm serving myself no purpose at all. But when you walk in with someone, you guys walk the room. If you can't strike up a conversation with everyone, at least the two of you can start having your own conversation where you don't look like you're the poor little loser on the side that no one wants to talk to. So but then I have a friend of mine, she local, and she's like the one, I joke that she's friends with all the cliques. The popular people, the nerdy people. I mean, she's friend, and she goes around and she works the room, and like we'll all go together. Sometimes there's a big group of us that go together, and she'll literally, like, as soon as she gets her name out, she goes, all right, see you guys in a little bit, and she's off, you know off and going. And meanwhile, all of us are just kind of working the room together, and one of us will stray away and go talk to and before you know it, we're all going back and forth or whatnot. But most of the time we don't see her until it's time to go, or we sit down for dinner or whatever the event is, because she loves to work the room alone.
Mhm.
So there's not a right answer. I think you got to
Okay.
look at yourself and see.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's helpful.
what? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think for me, it depends on what it is. If it's truly more of like a networking, maybe there's a panel, like people are there to like mingle, but I am sometimes okay going by myself, but when it's more of like an industry event where people are truly just there for fun, those I feel very awkward at because I want a friend to like
Mhm.
just have fun with. Because sometimes those can feel more clicky, and then I do feel like an idiot when I'm like, I don't know anybody, and the music's loud, people are dancing, people are there to like drink and have a good time.
Yeah. Those get a little out of hand sometimes.
But yeah,
So
I think
those conference, you find that a lot at a conference. You'll find those type of events, and everyone, it's like people just met each other and they're like getting freaky on the dance floor. You're like,
yeah.
what's going on here? You're like, what? What did I get myself into?
But I think it's good to say like it's more of a personal decision because for me sometimes I'm like
100%.
I don't want to deal with the anxiety of like going to the event because that's not healthy for me. So I'm like just bring a friend, especially if that friend is also a wooer and they're like asking questions and it's really helpful to have someone just kind of helping with the conversation.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in wingman, wingwoman. You have to
Yeah.
have someone with you. So, you
Yeah.
know,
But okay, what do you do? This is, I just thought of this question, but so let's say the example of everyone is in their little cliques and I've been in that situation where I'm by myself, I'm entering a room and I'm like, I'm doing this, we got this. Okay. And I go up to a group and I'm like, "Hi. Who are you?"
yeah.
And I like don't know how to start it because they look at me deer in headlights type of thing and no one either they're not super chatty and I have to carry the conversation or I just wish I had a good question to kick it off?
Sometimes I go in those situations. If you just say, like, hi, I'm Kevin. I'm new to the group. I'm looking to meet some new people. And if you go in there like and throw your vulnerability out on the table to them, sometimes that helps and they feel a little bit nice. And then you just start asking. I think I learned with like, oh, how often you come to these type of events, and do you enjoy them, and like just start asking more about the event or the group that you're going to. And then before you know it, then it might turn to get in your favor. So
Mm,
I found that to work for me. It's like, oh, hey, I'm newer to this group, or even if I'm not, hey, I've not seen you before. I come to these events all the time, and then I'm Kevin, blah, blah, blah. And what brought you here today? And,
yeah.
and just kind of just try to turn it on them and throw it out there.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's so, because there are times like I was telling you that one person in our group that was a connector. She was such a connector, but we sometimes you don't see each other until you get to these meetings. And she had to tell me something one time, and so we kind of closed ourselves off, and we were like playing really quick catch up. And then there was a guy over our shoulder. We actually in our group called him the lurker. He would stand there and wait for the moment to pounce in and get in on the group. But like I looked at her and we were having like a very serious conversation. And I think you could tell that we were having a serious conversation. And I looked at her and I go, the lurker's over my shoulder, right? And I didn't even look. I could just feel him there. And I could see her eyes and everything that was leading up to that moment. She goes, uh-huh. And I said, all right, we'll catch up on this in a minute. And we turned around and talked to him for a second. But it's just don't be that person, don't be a lurker, don't be a shrimper, don't be a drunk, I guess is kind of all.
That's hilarious. Uh, okay, and kind of in preparation, so like someone's preparing to go to a networking event, do you find it helpful to mentally think about a goal in mind? So whether it be it could be as big as I'm going to sell my product to somebody, or
Well,
maybe it has to be smaller, like I need to make, I don't know, I don't even know what goal, like get somebody's connect with someone on a personal level. Like, is that too broad?
no, I think you have to have a goal, and I think the goal will be different for everybody going into it. It could be, I want to meet one planner, one new planner or one new person. I always tell my staff they need to come back with 2 to 3 new business cards, and then that way they can follow up with them. and just check in and get to know them. We invite them to follow, like after we go, like follow us on social media and here's our information. And we're not like, we don't, we'd love to add you to our database if you'd love to know more information. We don't just immediately add them to our database. We don't add them to our preferred vendor list. I had someone once add me to their preferred vendor list. I had no idea who this person was, and I never even worked at this venue. And I'm like, and so I called. I'm like, hey, I saw our name was on the preferred vendor list. Thank you. How did you get our information? And apparently she got my card at a networking event and just put me on there without like. But I feel like you even like adding that, you have to have like a relationship at that point. And I feel, but I was very thankful. And meanwhile, now I work there all the time. So it was kind of a random way, like a way that you don't normally get added to a preferred vendor list, if that makes any sense. It kind of happens. So it's just, but I think if you go in there, it's going to be different for everyone. And I don't, again, with like, do you bring someone? Do you not? This is going to be different for everyone. But like for my staff, I always give them the goal to make sure that they are actually talking to new people is, bring back 2 to 3 new business cards.
So a lot of times I feel like I have business cards, but they haven't been updated. So then I don't bring them to networking events. So typically I find that we like connect on social media, Instagram, or like, oh, I'll follow you, you follow me. But what are some ways to connect outside of that? Right. Cause it's great to be like, oh yeah, I'll follow you on your business, like your stuff, it does come as a reminder when I'm scrolling. But I'm curious, I know you talked about a few ways earlier of like following up with an email, but what are some like great ways to connect outside of just connecting on social media after an event?
So I think inviting them to another event, like, hey, if you see him again, like, hey, I'm going to this event, love to see you there, like trying to connect with them there. Another way too is do a little bit of surprise and delight. So I'm a big believer in doing we celebrate different holidays. So I was sitting at one of the venues we work at all the time. I was do you guys know what C's, do you guys have C's Candy out there? It's like a West Coast thing. Okay. So it's starting to go all over, but C's Candy around here is everyone gives out a pound of chocolate, and that's kind of like the thing. And I was sitting at this venue and I was looking at this like table they had, and they had literally had over 25 pounds of C's chocolate in boxes, different individual boxes sitting all around the room. And I looked at the girl that I have a really good relationship with. I'm like, who's been bringing you all this chocolate? She goes, I have no idea. It just keeps coming. And so at that point, whoever did that, they have no idea who they are, right? You're wasting your time, your effort, your money. And a lot of that eventually is probably going to get thrown away or given to staff members or whoever not even going to benefit. So you're wasting your time. So at that moment on, I'm like, we are never going to celebrate the holidays ever again. And we started celebrating obscure holidays. So if you go to holiday or nationalholiday.com, you'll find they're literally every day. There's tons and tons of holidays. And actually, if I bring my little thing down, I could probably tell you what today is.
Wait, that's genius.
And because so
you're right.
Oh, well, see, it would be an easy one to celebrate. Today is National Sugar Cookie Day. So you would be able to give out crumble cookie, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, so find it a hole in your schedule. Upcoming holiday, there's National Corn Dog Day. Come back.
We love that.
I hit the wrong button and got rid of it.
Every day is a national day of something.
Every day.
No, literally, you can find a day. So we did like National Pizza Day and delivered pizza to everyone. And, tomorrow's kitten. Fun. So tomorrow's National Kitten Day. So if you know people that love, so if you love cats, you can just randomly send someone, if you know that they're constantly posting about their cats, and hey, happy National Kitten Day, kind of thing. And it's a way to get you recognized and known without being one of many at the holidays. So we literally have not celebrated holiday or out for our clients. We've not celebrated holidays in forever. Like I almost see we're on like 8 or 9 years, and people love that we celebrate all these weird holidays, and we never repeat them. We find a different one. I guess eventually, if we do this long enough, we'll have to repeat one. But usually, it's crazy how many different holidays there are.
I love that.
Yep.
So I guess I'm curious because sometimes I feel like I go to these networking events or like I have relationships with people, and maybe it's just more from a planner side because I'm doing a lot of the referrals. But I feel like sometimes I have a relationship with people and I'm almost like, I'm referring you, but are you referring me? And so I'm curious like how to kind of approach those relationships or make sure you're getting it in return and sort of building, helping business kind of in both directions versus like just having that personal relationship.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is where do you fall in the food chain, so to speak. It's like, I think it's harder for you as planners. I think it's harder for venues to see the results of some of this stuff. But I think if you look at it as you're out there on a fact finding mission and you're like looking for new things to benefit your clients, like, hey, I found that cigar roller or that beer burrow that I'm going to have at my next event, like, and you can bring it and it enhances what you do. And then know that eventually you'll get referred, because that just happened to me the other day. I met with someone and I'm like, you guys don't have a planner, you guys have a lot going on, you really should consider. And I referred them to one of the planners we work with all the time. With that said, you know, she probably sends me 25 referrals to my one, and it's just the way it is. She gets the clients before we do. The venues get the clients before we do. So it's hard to have it come back this way. So I think a lot of it is understanding where you fit in that, like, are you at that position? Where are you in the order of how they book their services? Yeah, it's harder for me to refer a venue or a planner because usually they have those things by the
Sure.
time they come to me. So,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think if you go out there, it's like, I'm constantly looking for new things, staying updated. Oh, that person has, I met the new person at the rental company that, the person I was always dealing with is now gone. So you were able, I mean, if you take it in that aspect that you're constantly, you're there to learn and,
Mhm.
the business will follow.
Yeah.
And I think like that you said the concept of surprise and delight is such a joy for us. Like even a handwritten card or like a little Starbucks gift card, like that goes a long way just to be like, oh, they acknowledge, they realize that we've sent them so much business. And I understand that my calligrapher probably can't refer me as much business as I can refer them. Um, where I am not a huge fan of thing is referral fees. And we didn't
No, no,
I
yep,
took
no.
this question out originally, but
Good.
I want to talk about it quickly. Um, I think it's not fair because I don't want to be influenced. I don't want to be bribed into giving a vendor a client because they're giving me a referral fee. If it so happens, I would say the exception to this is rental companies. So a lot of the times in the event industry, planners or venues or whoever is the main point of contact, sometimes caterers will get a commission from
Mhm.
a rental company. And we're always very open and honest about this with our clients. We don't upcharge them or anything. They get the price that they get and so on. But I'm curious, just quickly, your thoughts on referral fees. And is that a tactic you would recommend?
I always, no, because the planners that do it, I always look down upon them. It's like, think of a way to make more money or charge more than having to make money off of every single person that walks through the door. The rental company, that's a totally different thing because you got to think you're like another salesperson for them, is the way, because you're bringing them a client and you already know what china pattern, what linen, what chairs, you have all that. You've done the work for them. At that point, they're an order taker, not, they don't have to do anything. You've literally done the work for them. So that is a totally different situation than, oh, if you want to work for me. Like there was a venue out here and I told them no. They wanted us, and and so they would charge their clients $200 as a some kind of fee to have their DJs there or whatever. And so then they took the fee out because they were kind of getting slack for it, rightfully so. And they told the DJs, well, now you need to charge $200 more and give us this money. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to make $200 less than what I was making to just, it just made zero sense. And I didn't do it,
Yeah,
and
good
we
for
walked
you.
away from that business because I didn't believe in that venue wasn't going to be for us. And it's funny, they still come back to us and try to convince me to go. And, and they're like, well, we installed our own sound system and we made the investment do all. I go, well, you guys did that on your own. I don't really want to use your sound system, because what if like the guy from the night before broke it? What if the wireless microphone doesn't work today? And then I'm look like the idiot, like, and then it's all falling on me, and I'm the one getting the bad, review and all that stuff. And it's just like, I want to make sure I have control over what I'm doing at the wedding.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, one of my employees got married in Houston, and so I literally flew with my DJ controller, and she wanted me. I don't DJ many weddings anymore, but but she wanted me. She really wanted me to DJ her wedding, so I said sure. But like, I walked in there so nervous because all I had was my controller. Like, I had to rely on this but meanwhile, the venue had a really great setup, and the guys were like, they're like, you were so easy to work with, better than our other DJ, and like you guys for me, like we had this like really like good little synergy going on. But I would never around here, I would never do that. Like, it was different because I was on an airplane going, so I had to rely on someone to do all that stuff, and they had it all in-house anyway. It worked out, but it was just like, I would never do that around here. Just show up and just do it. I don't know. It's just at that point, hire an employee that's a DJ, and then just don't have outside services at that point. So
yeah. Oh, great tip. Okay, one last one for you before we close this episode out, which I feel like we're gonna have to have part 2, because Kari, you and I will have to go out in the wild and go to networking events and report back and see how it went for us with our new strategies.
I love that you called it the wild, because it really is the wild.
It is. You never know what's gonna happen. Okay, Kevin. So what would you say, or maybe your top 3 tips that you would leave with our listeners in regards to networking, and maybe utilizing that as a tool to grow their business?
So I think the biggest thing, have business cards. I know I'm going to be controversial in saying that. I think you need to have them when you walk in a room. So just be prepared with that. I think if you come in and prepared with the questions, like we said, having some talking points, or and then even, especially if you saw something in their Instagram, if you do a little stalking but without being a stalker, like, oh, I saw that you did that amazing wedding on blah blah blah, that looked amazing, how did you guys or how'd you do that, or how, tell me more about it, and and that has a starting off point. So have where you're comfortable and making people comfortable to talk to you as well. And I'm trying to think of what else that I've seen that people go wrong. I think is coming like relaxed, like coming to the event, not stressed out. So like I noticed this a lot when I was in New York, and because people would come over the bridge, come into Manhattan, all their events were in Manhattan, and they were stressed with the traffic and they walk in all disheveled. I think you really someone should have took the time, drove in the city a couple hours early, found a Starbucks, worked a little bit, and then went to the event, so they calmed down and were relaxed. I think if you go into that event comfortable and prepared, I think you're going to do well. Even me, like, think about it, like, if something's going on at a wedding, and even when I show up 5 minutes late from the start time, I'm like frantic, because it's like I feel like I count on every. Meanwhile, that 5 minutes is nothing, because I always like to be done 20, 30 minutes before we were supposed to be done, kind of thing. But it just, my mindset is frantic. So I think not having that frantic mindset is going to go a long way.
That's really helpful. This has been such a good conversation. Like, way more like engaging, and like so many questions just popped in my mind as we were talking. So it was super helpful. But Kevin, how can our listeners find you and connect with you online?
Sure. Where you can find it at fantasysound.com or at weddingiq.com. And then we're FSES events on Instagram, or wedding_IQ on Instagram for Wedding IQ. And then I'm Kevin M. Dennis on Wedding IQ as well. You can email me, Kevin at fantasysound.com, or Kevin at weddingiq.com. That's another thing we talked about, or we didn't talk about, is if you are, wedding planner at gmail.com, I don't take you seriously. So you need to, if you're going to go out there in the networking world and you have at Gmail, or even worse at Yahoo or Hotmail or AOL on your card, I am not going to take you, that you're not in business being serious. So that we didn't even bring that up. So sorry to drop that.
A
Drop
good
that little
mic
bomb at
drop
the end.
to
Yes.
close out. That's actually a great point. I feel like I see some people that still have a Gmail account. I'm like, interesting.
No, it's like
So,
they're not taking their business seriously.
Mhm.
So, or they're
yeah,
lazy. That's the other.
yeah,
Mhm.
They're just lazy.
yeah. Awesome. Well, this was so good. Thanks for joining us today. And hopefully, our listeners and Gabby and I can go out into the wild and try some of these tips and we'll report back.
We'd love to hear the success stories.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, guys.